The year is 1945, and the Third Reich is collapsing. But the men responsible for millions of deaths are not fighting on the front lines. They are hiding in bunkers, trying to erase their horrifying secrets. Who exactly were these 6 architects of pure evil? So first up, we have Joseph Goebbels. Imagine a guy who gets rejected by publishers, has a massive superiority complex, and spends his time writing a cringe, self-insert novel. Normal people would just start a podcast. But Joseph Goebbels decided to brainwash 80 million people. Growing up with a limp from polio, he felt weak, so he compensated by becoming the most dangerous voice in human history. As Hitler's minister of propaganda, he didn't just censor the news, he hacked the entire country's brain. He put a cheap government radio in every single home. Why? Because he wanted to be the only voice in their heads. And his words were literally lethal. On November 9th, 1938, it was Goebbels who gave the fiery speech that ignited Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. That single night of propaganda-fueled rage resulted in 30,000 innocent Jewish men being sent to concentration camps and hundreds of synagogues destroyed. He turned extreme hate into a national trend. But his most terrifying masterclass in manipulation happened on February 18th, 1943. The German army was getting absolutely crushed at Stalingrad. The war was basically lost. So what does Goebbels do? He stands in front of a massive crowd at the Sport Palace and screams, "Do you want total war?" And the crowd, completely brainwashed, screamed, "Yes!" He literally gaslit an entire nation into a suicidal meat grinder, prolonging the war and directly causing millions of unnecessary deaths. It is the ultimate horrifying example of weaponized copium. It was Joseph Goebbels. Adolf Hitler. In his youth, he wasn't a terrifying dictator. He was a frustrated, broke artist living in homeless shelters in Vienna. He applied to the Academy of Fine Arts twice and got rejected both times. Apparently, he couldn't draw human figures. Also, his father's original last name was Schicklgruber. Imagine millions of people screaming, "Heil Schicklgruber!" Yeah, it doesn't quite have that villain ring to it. But after World War I, this homeless artist discovered a terrifying superpower: his voice. He practiced his aggressive, screaming speeches in front of a mirror, just like a toxic influencer preparing for a stream. He brainwashed a broken, desperate nation into believing they were a master race of tall, blonde, blue-eyed supermen. The ultimate irony? Hitler himself was a short, dark-haired guy with a toothbrush mustache that Charlie Chaplin wore way better. Armed with pure hate and propaganda, he didn't just break the rules. He broke the entire world. He sparked World War II and orchestrated the Holocaust, causing the deaths of over 40 million people. He promised Germany a 1,000-year Reich. But when his empire collapsed after just 12 years, did he fight on the front lines with his soldiers? Nope. He hid underground in a concrete bunker and took the ultimate coward's way out. It was Adolf Hitler. Let's move on to Hermann Göring. Unlike Hitler or Goebbels, Göring was actually a badass in his youth. He was a legendary World War I fighter pilot who commanded the infamous Red Baron Squadron. But during a failed Nazi coup in 1923, he got shot in the groin. To cope with the excruciating pain, he started taking morphine and accidentally unlocked a lifelong, crippling addiction. As the second in command of the Third Reich, Göring didn't act like a military leader. He acted like a corrupt Roman emperor. While his country was fighting a brutal war, Göring was wearing heavy makeup, soaking himself in perfume, and changing into custom-made silver-gray uniforms 5 times a day. He even kept real, live African lions as house pets. His rival, Joseph Goebbels, absolutely despised him. Goebbels secretly roasted him in his diary, calling him an effeminate, perfumed idiot who had as much to do with leadership as a cow has to do with radiology. But when his Air Force started losing the Battle of Britain, Göring just gave up. He hid in his mansions, popping thousands of paracodeine pills, completely ignoring reality. And at the Nuremberg trials, just 2 hours before he was supposed to hang, he swallowed a hidden cyanide capsule. It was Hermann Göring. Let's move on to Martin Bormann. In his youth, Bormann wasn't some evil genius. He dropped out of school, worked on a farm, and joined a violent street gang. In 1924, he even went to prison for helping murder a man. But when he got out, he swapped his street weapons for a much deadlier tool: paperwork. While famous generals were fighting on the front lines, Bormann became an SS Obergruppenführer and the ultimate shadow chancellor. He realized the greatest cheat code in history: whoever controls the boss's calendar controls the country. He guarded Hitler's door like a toxic bouncer. Absolutely no one could see the dictator without Bormann's permission. But don't let the secretary title fool you. He didn't just type letters, he typed death sentences. Bormann was a radical architect of the Holocaust. He personally signed the edicts that deported millions of innocent Jews and Slavs to extermination camps, and he aggressively expanded the horrific slave labor programs. He slaughtered millions of people without ever firing a single bullet on the battlefield. When the Soviet army crushed Berlin in 1945, Bormann pulled a classic disappearing act. For decades, conspiracy theorists swore he escaped to a sunny beach in South America. But in 1998, DNA tests on a skull found buried in the dirt of Berlin revealed the pathetic truth. The almighty shadow boss panicked, tried to run away, got trapped by Soviet tanks, and swallowed a cyanide pill. It was Martin Bormann. Let's move on to Reinhard Heydrich. Young Heydrich was a frail school nerd. He was a competitive fencer, played classical music, and was brutally bullied by classmates for his high-pitched voice and rumors of Jewish ancestry. He later joined the Navy, but got kicked out in disgrace for acting like a jerk and dumping an officer's daughter. So he took all that toxic insecurity and channeled it into becoming the deadliest man in Europe. Heydrich didn't just follow orders. He was the ultimate architect of pure evil. He commanded the Einsatzgruppen, mobile death squads that ruthlessly slaughtered over 2 million people. That Adolf Hitler himself named him the man with the iron heart, and he was widely considered to be the terrifying, unstoppable successor to rule the entire Third Reich. But his massive ego became his ultimate downfall. In 1942, as the ruthless dictator of Prague, Heydrich felt so untouchable that he drove around in an open-top convertible without guards. A team of assassins ambushed him. A sniper aimed right at him, but the gun completely jammed. However, a second agent threw an anti-tank grenade. Heydrich survived the blast. But do you know what actually killed him? Dirt and horsehair from his own luxury car seat. Got blasted into his wound. The future Führer died of sepsis a few days later. But the story didn't end there. The Nazis' rage over his death was so apocalyptic that they ordered absolute, horrifying revenge. They completely wiped 2 entire villages off the face of the earth, Lidice and Ležáky. Every man was executed, women and children were thrown into concentration camps, and the towns were burned to ashes and erased from the map. It was a chilling final legacy for the Butcher of Prague. It was Reinhard Heydrich.
Heinrich Himmler.
Meet Heinrich Himmler, the Reichsfuhrer of the SS and the absolute embodiment of pure evil. In his youth, Himmler wasn't some tough, battle-hardened warrior. He was a frail, sickly kid who desperately wanted to fight in World War I, but the war ended before he could. Instead, he got a degree in agriculture, worked at a manure processing factory, and literally raised chickens. But his obsession with the occult, runes, and dark racial theories transformed this boring farmer into a monster. Himmler took the SS, which was just a tiny 290-man bodyguard club, and leveled it up into a terrifying, fanatical private army of over 1 million men. He wasn't a loud screamer like Hitler. He was the cold, calculated spreadsheet guy of death. Himmler was the main architect of the Holocaust. He built the concentration camp system, the Gestapo, and was directly responsible for the systematic, industrial slaughter of over 6 million Jews and millions of other innocent people.
He even bought a creepy medieval castle to hold bizarre occult rituals with his officers, like some twisted Sith lord. But when 1945 rolled around and the empire was collapsing, did this master race warlord fight to the bitter end? Nope. He got psychosomatic stomach aches, panicked, and secretly tried to negotiate a peace deal with the Allies, behind Hitler's back. When Hitler found out, he went absolutely ballistic and fired him. So the all-powerful head of the SS shaved his mustache, put on an eye patch, and tried to run away disguised as a common soldier. But British soldiers caught him almost immediately, and before they could properly interrogate him, the ultimate coward bit into a hidden cyanide capsule. He was tossed into an unmarked grave in the dirt. Absolute pathetic ending.